Welcome to another Dashboard 2.0 tutorial video, and I'm playing around with tables at the moment. Well, I've been playing around with tables for some time, but I always run into some issues, and it took me some time to actually figure out these issues and sort of like come to the end of them and just learn a little bit. So this is why it was delayed, although I think the table is probably something which is going to be, fairly interesting to use. Probably we are going to use tables quite a lot. So there, and of course there is a lot of customizability in the table, and I'm going to show you quite a few things here, and I'm pretty sure there are like other tons of things that I could tell you which I haven't looked at just yet. So what I want to talk about is how you can do all sorts of formatting in a table. So here, as you can see, I try to do different types of or different ways of displaying information in the table, creating these progress bars and these ratings and icons and chips and everything. And also I was playing around how we can make the table sort of like responsive, as in you can select items. So I was exploring this selection option which is available and how that works in Node-RED. And then finally I also wanted to play around with more feedback, so like how you can put like buttons into the table, so it can, for example here I can change the temperature here. And I'm still having some issues with the markdowns. You can see that I have some explanation text here. Actually, there are like 3 more explanation text on this page, but they are not appearing correctly. This is something that I mentioned in previous videos as well. I think it's still not resolved, or maybe it's an issue with my setup only. But anyway, there is some documentation here in these markdown notes. So when I export my sample flow, you are going to have that, and you can check them out. Okay, so let's get started with it, and I'm going to show you. Okay, we don't need this. So let's talk about this one first. And I mean, some of this you probably have already seen, because this is very similar to the table that I did on my first video. And basically what I'm doing here is just I'm sending an array to this table, and I'm displaying all the different fields using different things like, okay, this is text, this is converted to a hyperlink, this is text as well, and this is something which is called the chips, and that's just an icon, this is a rating, and that's a progress bar. And by the way, what I also wanted to mention is that in the UI, so in this Dashboard 2.0, we have a table component. Where is this? This one. But that's very limited, and it cannot do a lot of customizing. But again, you just send the data and it's going to display the data in columns and rows, and it's very simple. But what I'm going to focus here now is how you can build your own table using the template node. Okay, so let's go to the first one, and I'm just going to show you that I have this sample data of this. Basically, I just call it people list, which has names, email, city, age, EV, as in does it have an EV car, let's say, some sort of rating. It's a number from 1 to 5, and so at a complete, like completeness within a process, which is 1 to 100 or 0 to 100. So that's the information that I'm sending into the this template node which I created. And well, first of all, what I included, I really like this client-side filtering. So this is great. You don't have to do a single line of code for it, and it just works. So if I type Swift, it immediately filters the line which has the word Swift, and it doesn't have to be in any particular column. So if I want to filter on Dallas, it works as well, and it just shows me the where the lines where the city is Dallas, or anyone who has Dallas in the name, or well, we don't really have any other field which has text, so these 2 fields. And if you want to use this, you just have to include this line in front of your table, and then you tie this to the table by this v-model search equals search. So that's nice. So the big thing about the v table, well, sorry, the main tag, I think, for creating a table is this v data table. And by the way, you can see the documentation here. And today I'm only going to focus on this basic data table, but there is also this server table, which I think it's probably going to be much better if you want to deal with a large data set. I mean, all my examples, I'm using a few dozens of lines. Maybe here I think I have like 200 lines, but if you would be dealing with a large data set with thousands of lines, obviously you won't want to pass everything to the client at the same time and let it deal with it, but then you would use these server tables where the table can pull the information as the users basically scrolls through or filters or requests more data. And then you can see that that's the data table that we are going to use. So if you click on that, you will get all the details, attributes and everything. And I was also going through these examples. So this is where most of the ideas came from, but again, I'm not going to use all of them. So you can see that you can put images, and these are the chips and the ratings that I used. Sometimes you have things like different navigations, which I didn't go into the details of. You can also do, I think, grouping. So there is an example here where you can group, which again is not something that I looked into. That somewhere there is an example for grouping. But let's just stick with these for the time being. vData table is the main tag, so this is for the search, and that's how you assign the items. So we are sending all the items in the message.payload, so :items message.payload. This is how we tie to the payload that we are sending the data in. And if you don't do anything, if you don't create all these template nodes that I display here, then what the system is going to do is it's going to create a column for every single attribute in a table, and the column header is going to be the name of the attribute with a caps letter, and then the data is just going to be displayed as it is. So, but what we want to do is sometimes we want to change. So, I have a field which is called EV. I don't want to display here EV, just I want to have the word EV owner or customer satisfaction or journey completed. So we can do that. We can create these templates, and in vslot column header.ev. So this is how we define that we are creating this template in order to replace the header for the field EV. And you can just create a text. You can just create a text with center alignment. So this is what I have done for the EV, the rating, and the complete. So this is why it shows EV owner, customer satisfaction, journey completed. And by the way, the fact that the title disappears when I hover over it is something that I haven't really fixed. And to be honest, I don't know how, so probably I'm going to ask in a forum, but that's something like some issue with the classes. But yeah, that's how it is at the moment. So you can do all these templates, basically just to change the header column title. And then you do similarly the same if you want to change how the item look like. So again, you create a template/template and then v-slot :item dot the field name. So in the email, I want to change the email. So instead of showing the email here, which is going to be too long, I want to create a link. So this is a normal HTML hyperlink. So A and href and then the word email and then /a, sorry. And so here in the href, I want to have a piece of code which puts the item, the email address into it. So every time every time the expression for the attribute is not like a text, but an expression, or the value for the attribute is an expression, you have to put the colon here. Again, this is probably something related to Vue, which I haven't used before, so that was also new to me. But you can see that now we are saying that the href should be mail to plus the item.email. So here you can see that this vslot receives the item, which is always the current item which is getting displayed, which is the in our case, that's the object from the element array. So that would obviously have all the, the fields that we pass originally. So I mean that, we are passing this array. So here, this is going to be one item. That's going to be one item. So you can always reference to .age, .ev, .rating, whatever. So all the different fields, or email in our case. So if I go back, then so item.email is going to print the email for the corresponding row. So that renders this email link. And then the next one is the age, and you can create this chip, which is basically, it's like this rounded thing which appears in the round text, and it can have menus as well. So you can see that this is that's the idea behind the chips. But you can just use a single chip, like, that's the, just around this thingy, and then you can have different styles, and then you can assign, colors to it. So what I have done here is I created a chip, and within the chip tag, the text is double curly brackets, item.age, so that prints the age value. So let's say 20, and then I added space year, so it also prints space years next to it. And I also wanted the color to change based on the actual value. So here again, it's not simple attribute color, but color. And then this one is actually a name of a function, get chip color and the item. And then this is defined at the end. So in the script section, there is one which is called methods. And we have a method which says get chip color, which is a function. It receives the item in the arguments. And if the item.age, so if the age is more than 50, then it's red. If it's more than 30, it is orange. And if it's otherwise, it's green. So you can see that how the chip color changes based on the age value. So the next field is going to be very similar. It's the this EV, and I thought, okay, I'm going to change this. I mean, it contains a simple yes or no, and I'm going to change this to a icon. So there is a template, v-slot-item.ev, which passes the entire item structure over, and I create I put the icon into a div, so the with a text center, so the icon shows up in the middle of the column, and it's just basically a v icon where I can specify a color and the icon. And both of them are getting determined by a method. So I use the colon, and the icon is the EV icon and the color is the EV color. So again, if we scroll down to the method sections, now we can see that the EV color says if the item.ev is yes, then it's green, otherwise it's gray. And if the EV is yes, then it's this icon from the material design icons, and if it's not, it's this icon. So it either displays a normal car like this in gray, or a car with a lightning thingy in green. So again, it's really easy to just do something and then change them to icons. So you would definitely need, I mean, if you don't want to do functions, I think it's possible to do the inline expression as well, like, expression question mark and what's the syntax? If it's yes, then for yes, then colon the no value. So I could have done it for this one because it's basically just two. For the colors, when I had to pick from 3 different colors, then it was just a little bit complicated. So it was just easier to do it as a function. The next one, I deliberately picked this field which has a value of 1 to 5, which is possible to convert into a rating. So this rating is basically just a 5-star rating, so it expects the value from 1 to 5. Here another template, v-slot-item.rating, and in the v rating you can provide a couple of things. So you have a length which is 5, but I don't think that you can do other than let me check the rating. I forgot where is the rating? I think it's somewhere up here. pagination file. These are the input ones, and not selections and feedback. I think it's here, yeah. So yeah, I think the length is basically the spacing, so how spaced apart the items appear, I think, if I remember correctly. No, that's the density. But I did something else. Oh, that's the size, which controls the size. And there was another reason why I added the rating, so I have to just find that. So I put a size, and then there is a color, which I use the active color, which is, oh sorry, the primary color, which is this one, so that's blue. And here the model value contains the actual, the value. So I tie the model value to the item.rating. Obviously, you don't need a function, function here, because you are just actually passing the value over. So again, you just use the colon model dash value, and then the item.rating, because again, it passes the whole item. So dot rating is the value, the value for the rating. And I also did as read only, because by default you can change the rating. So I only wanted to display here, so it's not, it shouldn't be clickable. And then finally, I wanted to add a linear progress as well. So this is a fictional journey completion, something. And again, it just contains a value from 1 to 100, and you can just convert it to a linear progress, which again has a model value, just like the rating, and it has a color. And again, the model value is tied to the item.complete, and the color is tied to a function, which is getProgressColor. And that's very similar to the color of the chip. It just has different values, and it uses the same 3 colors, but then different values. So above 80 is red, above 50 is orange, and then below that is green. So that's how it looks like. And that's it. And then that's it. So as you can see, I don't have a V template for the city and the name, because if you don't mention it, it just displays the text, and no special formatting or nothing. And of course, the same for the column headers. So the other thing I wanted to mention is that I haven't really configured anything on the headers. So what you can also see that, when I hover over the the headers, then they disappear because of, as I said, the styling. But you can actually click on them, so they actually become sortable as well. And that's also a default property of these headers. And yes, and you can just sort them ascending and descending. It's very intuitive to use, and if you click on them again, then the sorting is turned off and it goes back to the original order. And of course, you have the pagination, which is turned on by default, and you can also select how many items you want to see, so you can change the items per page. And actually, this is all controllable, but I didn't want to go into that detail. So again, if you go back to the documentation, maybe I just use the no, go back one more. So in the V data table, actually you can see that it has an awful lot of things which I still didn't use. So I think there is an attribute which says item per page. So this is where you can set the default. I mean, the default value is 10, but you can change this. And then items per page option. So you can either define the values that are appearing in the drop down. So 10, 25, 50, 100. I mean, here I only have 3 entries, so maybe there is an option to either hide the pagination completely if you don't need. But these are the additional things that you would be able to configure. As I said, there is like a huge amount of stuff here that you can do to fine tune it. And of course, you would be able to put this here. So item per page equals 5, then it would just only show 5 items by default instead of 10. Or if you want more, then obviously you can change that. But as I said, yeah, we would be sitting here for the whole night if I would go through all the different results. So that's basically it. I mean, I just wanted to make the, the table look a little bit more, beautiful by using these various picture and rendering elements, basically. In the next example, I wanted to explore two things. First is how I can render a table based on a data set which has a lot of different attributes, but I only want to use certain attributes to be shown in the table, because here the input data had name, email, city, so all of these fields that you see here, or all of the fields. But here I had like, I don't know, 20 different fields. But I only really need to display an icon, a name, a created, and a change from this file list. So that's one thing. And the other one thing is I wanted to see how I can make lines selectable. So how I can select one or multiple line items from the table and send that information to Node-RED, so Node-RED Flow would know which one I have selected. Okay, let's look at the table thing first. So if you look at this table list example, I have a fairly big data set here. So you can see that it contains, a full path to the file, and it has a file size and all the dates and everything. And then it has a lot of flags, like is this a directory or a file or a symbolic link. And I also created a separate fields for the file name without the path and the extension, and there is a download link and it's an icon. So these are all coming from my file browser example, which eventually I want to convert it to Dashboard 2.0 as well. So there is a lot of stuff here which I don't want to see in the table. But you can do that because you can externally configure or specify what are the fields, or what are the columns that you want to use in a table. So I have in this change node, I create a message.headers, and in that header I create a an array where I say that I want the field, the field icon to be shown as a column with a column title icon, the f name as name, the stat.created as created, the stat.changed as changed, and I want these three fields to be sortable and the first one not to be sortable. So, and that basically results in the table that you can see here. So I only have these 4 columns. I don't see any of the other data, although I'm passing this entire complicated structure over to the template or the table. And I cannot click on the icon, but I can click on the name or the created or the changed. So that's how you can control columns and which columns are sortable or not sortable if you want to specify that by individual column. And there are a few other things that you can do as well, but again, I just wanted to stick to the basics. So that's all the, and also you have to do something in the code as well, because here in the table, I had to specify that my headers, so colon headers, comes from message.headers. So the second thing that I wanted to achieve with this particular table is selection. So first of all, I had to do 2 things. Well, it's the same thing essentially, is I had to configure it so you can select a line item or multiple line items, and also it needed some code and some additional settings that those selections are actually returned as a message back to Node-RED. So let's look at the first thing is the configuration. So this file explorer, and if I go here, here I needed to add some additional attributes to the V data table. So mainly, I mean, we already discussed about the search and the items and the headers. So also there is a V model or V dash model, and that equals selected. So that makes or instructs Vue so that it collects all the selected items in the selected variable. And I also had to configure that the items are selectable. So actually I can click on these and select the items. There is a select strategy, and here again there are, I think, 3 select strategies. Single if you only allow to select one record, or all where you can select all of them. And actually I think there is a there is another selection strategy, as explained here in one of the documentation. There is another documentation where it says what are the selection examples, selection strategies. Oh yeah, single. Only a single row can be selected. A page, multiple rows can be selected, and clicking on the Select All button, this will select all the items on the current page or, globally. And I think it makes more sense to have it on all, but maybe in other cases it makes more sense to have it on a page. So that's it. And then show select is actually showing these checkboxes, and return object is that it actually returns the object that are selected. I'm not really sure why you would not use return object, but it's a different attribute. Okay, and so a variable called selected is now getting created. So in the data section, I created this and initialized with the empty array. And I also created a watch function or event function that whenever the selected changes, then it calls this function, which basically does a descend, and it sends a message with the topic selected, and the payload is the selected items. So this is the example that I used, and here they are doing exactly the same. So as you can see, they are displaying the value of the selected item. So if you select one item, then it returns an array of one item, and then if you select two, then the array contains both of the items or all the items that are selected. And it is just explained here that the return object means that you are returning the entire prop, so basically the entire item, which I think it's always more useful than returning the item value. I mean, you can select a specific item that you want to return, but for me, returning the whole object is most useful, because especially in this case, I'm storing a lot of stuff. I'm storing everything about the file in the item structure, even though I'm not displaying anything. So it's good to have all that information, so I don't have to get it from the global or something, because, well, it's going to be ordered in the outgoing message. Okay, so that's the example. So this is how it gets actually sent as a message out. And if we look at the UI, so we have the watch here, and that's the UI. So let's say I'm going to select this file. So now you see that I have an outgoing message out of the File Explorer node, and it's the topic selected, and the object is the file that I selected. And because it returns the entire object, I get everything here. So now I can, I have all the information. If I want to copy this file, that's the source. If I want to display it, and I know that this is a CSV. If I want to download it, this is the download link, etc. Okay, and if I select another file, then I get an array of 2. So I get both of the files, and of course it works the same for folders as well. So now I get 3, and then I get the folder as well. So anyway, it works as expected. And then as you unselect things, or if you just click here, click here to unselect everything, at the end you also get a message which says selected and empty. So this is how you know that you don't have anything selected. So I think I'm going to use this functionality in order to control buttons, like based on whether you have one single file selected or multiple files selected. I can just enable, disable buttons, so I can just easily tell the message.payload.length, I can say it is 0, so you don't have anything selected, 1 or more. And then based on that, I can just, toggle some buttons, whether they are selectable or not. So I think that's going to be a very useful functionality. And yeah, it is fairly simple to use. And, that thing that I showed you here, how you set up the vData table, and these functions should be identical, whatever data that you are displaying. And of course you just need to maintain your different headers, or create different templates for either the item or the header if you want to use different display options. For example, here I created a separate template so that the icon is getting displayed for each of the file. Okay. And the final example is this temperature list, which I also featured in the first video, because that was one of the examples. So I made two small changes here. So first of all, I removed the sorting because it only shows 3 values, so there is no point sorting here. I should have removed or somehow disabled these pagination links as well, but I haven't really figured out how to do that. Probably it's easy, but I haven't looked at it yet. So one thing I did is I created this, change node and these inject nodes where basically I can just animate these icons. So I just wanted to show you that actually it's, as you pass data, it automatically refreshes. So I think, tables would be ideal to use or to display information that maybe it's easier to visualize in a table form. So you just keep sending the data in and it would just automatically update, for example, charts or gauges or, this linear progress. Okay, well, it wouldn't be charts and gauges, but if you do something in linear progress, you can do it like this. And you can see that as the value changes, even there is like an animation, for example, how this linear progress moves from one value to another. So I don't want to spend too much time on this because I think I've already explained this, but you see that I don't have the input field for the search and I don't have the vmodel search here. I just have the items, which is again message.payload. And I have overridden 2 of the headers, which is this one and this one. And I created the linear progress, which the vmodel, so that's the value, it's the item.current. And then it has a JavaScript for determining the color, which is if the current is bigger than it's red, otherwise it's green. Well, the current is bigger than the target temperature. And it also, prints the current temperature in the middle. So it draws the progress and then you see the value as well. So the other thing I wanted to do is how I can, create buttons. So I can, for example, increase or decrease the target temperature. So here, when I render the column or the values for the target, so this is the target column. So I print the target value and then degrees centigrade. But before that, I added 2 buttons. So V button, the first one has a plus sign and it has red color, and then when it's clicked it sends a message topic with a topic plus and the payload, which is the actual item. And then the other one sends it has a minus and color blue, and it sends a message with a topic minus and the payload is the item, which for the line item. So the way it works is that let me close this one. So you can see that I have a debug node here, which is coming out of the template. So if I click plus on this one, then I see that I clicked on the plus because the message is plus, and I get the entire object. So living room 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the current value. So living room 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the current value. So here I could write a very easy JavaScript code or function code, which basically looks through all the temperatures. This is stored in a flow variable. And then when it matches the ID here from the item, from the payload.id, when it matches the ID in the data set, then it either increases the value, increases the target by 0.5 or decreases it. And of course, then I update the whole thing in the flow, and then I send it back into the template, so it updates the value. So you can see if I keep pressing this, then it goes up. So here, if I increase the target temperature, you can see that now the target is more than the current temperature, so the chart goes, or the progress goes green. And the same, well, I have to go really up until I hit this one. But if I reset the values, now it's better. So if let's say if I decrease this now, well, all of them are green because the current temperature is more than the target temperature. But if I increase them, then they start turning green. So again, it just feels, again, it's very easy to do these, and the fact that whenever we have a template, these like template vslot item dot something, and then we pass the entire item, we can also pass that entire item into the payload. So as long as you have something in the actual item which identifies that line item, for example, in this case, I have the ID, you will be able to just grab that information, go back to your original data set and, match that and figure out which, for example, target temperature in my case needs to be updated. So here, if you see, this value doesn't really do this function doesn't really do anything. All it does, it's basically, if this update fires, which fires every second, then it just goes to all of the temperatures and it just randomly increases or decreases the temperature by, 1 or 2 degrees plus or minus. And that makes the, the data go up and down randomly. And the actual rendering is done by the template. There's no actual code here other than the small JavaScript code which determines the color of the target temperature. And here in the second node, again, I just match the ID here based on the ID that actually I store in the context data. So you see it's called data. And so I can just know, okay, so if the ID was 567, then it's this 567, and based on whether the topic was plus or minus, I either increase this or decrease this by 0.5. And then I just send the data back, which updates it. And it is as simple as that. So this is all I wanted to share about the templates, the 3 examples that I have done so far. And as usual, you're going to find the link to this flow in the video description. And what I also, as I also explained in my other videos, if you do this, just make sure that before you import, just open up any of either the templates or the markdown nodes, and then go to the group, because everything is in one group, and then you go to the tables. So you go to the page, and then you assign that page to the UI that you are using, and then in the configuration nodes, you just find the UI basis. It's going to be, I don't know, I never find it. UI tabs, no, it's above. And you just make sure that you only have one UI base, because probably my file is going to create a second one, and that node, Dashboard 2.0 doesn't support multiple UI-based configurations at the moment. So that should be it. I'm pretty sure that I'm going to keep playing with the tables. As I said, one of my next project is going to be just to convert, my existing file browser, which is called Files New. So just create this to Dashboard 2.0 so I can access files and then do the usual file manipulation. And I'm pretty sure it's going to look quite different from this one, but I think given the things that I can do in Dashboard 2.0, I think it's going to be probably a little bit easier to use, and also there is going to be hopefully a little bit more functionality in it. But yeah, that will be coming up, well, maybe not next, but in some time. But until that point, I think that would be all for today. Thanks for watching, and hopefully see you next video.